What's up, guys? I'm Tinashe Moyo, and welcome to another episode of Stride. On this channel, my goal is to inspire people to take the first step towards their goals in life using my personal experiences. And in this video, I will be talking about how I started drawing again. So sit back and enjoy. Okay, welcome back, people. And I'm glad to be back. I think, as some of you saw from the notice, I had been down with the flu from last week, but I'm better now. You know, it's like when it first started, my nose, like my nostrils, were actually burning to the point where I had to constantly blow my nose. So I just had this crazy thought. It's like when it actually occurred to me, it's like when the effort you put when you are blowing your nose, it actually made me think that if the tissue was actually to be removed or maybe being photoshopped or something and taken off, people could actually see your face looking like Freddy Krueger's face, the killer from Nightmare on Elm Street. I just thought it was a stupid thing for me to say. I just felt like saying it. So yeah, that was that. But I'm just glad to be back. You know, one of the things that I actually learned, like when I started feeling a little bit better, I was actually feeling the pressure to record this episode because I was just like, man, I need to get back on track. I don't want to be inconsistent again. So I almost recorded while I was not like at 100%, you know. I still had some pains. My body wasn't fit enough. But then I actually realized, like, man, this is actually like your chance to relax. It's like, as people, in like the way we live, we just feel the need to prove ourselves to people. Like, you know what? Yeah, even if I'm not fit, I'm just gonna get back to work and do it. But I think the body, the mind actually needs more rest. We need to give ourselves time to rest, because if we don't rest, we're actually gonna suffer in the long run. So I was just like, let me just take this time to relax. And so I did. And I actually feel better, like much better, because sometimes we actually deprive ourselves from getting any rest, because we're just like, we gotta be constant, we gotta be moving. We feel like we are losing so much time. But the more we try to chase time, it's like the more we begin to lose ourselves. So we need to get that kind of balance in life so that we don't lose ourselves. Because, some of these things like work, these things can go, you can lose work, you can get, some other work. But if you lose your life, if you lose a part of your health, you are likely not to get it back. So I think it's just something we should always take cognizance of. Like, yes, we need to do work, but we also need to work on ourselves so that we get enough rest. So anyways, let's get down with the show. All right. So this is actually one of the stories that I had always been yearning to talk about. I was just trying to find the right time to talk about it, but I'm glad that the time is now. So I'm a huge fan of art. Like, I've always been a fan of art ever since I was a kid. So it's like, the thing is, my dad used to draw back in his days, and he once showed me like a a drawing. I think that he once did a couple of years back. All this time, when I used to see this drawing, it's unfortunate that I couldn't find that drawing, but all this time that I used to see those birds, I was just like, where did these things come from? And when my dad told me that it was him who drew those things, I was just like, whoa, this is pretty amazing. Like it was simple, but they were really, really cool. So I think he told me about it just a few years ago. And these were years where I was busy thinking like I need to get back into drawing. I need to get back into drawing. So when I noticed that my dad used to draw, I was just like, well, I guess it's in my blood again. Well, especially when I look at things like football, when I look at things like media, these are things that he also used to do. So it just, you know, runs in the family. So it actually inspired me. But let me get back to where it all started. So, in 2005, I went to Phoenix College in Hatfield here in Harare, Zimbabwe. So, Phoenix had two classes because at that time I was actually repeating my O levels because I had transferred from Bernard Mizeki College. So Phoenix had two classes. There was one class that did technical graphics, and there was the other class that did art. So I had to choose between the two. And so I thought that art was much more easier than technical graphics because I didn't know what technical graphics was all about. And the name in itself just made things a lot more complicated. So I was just like, well, let me go for art because that's the term that's well known. That's something I've known ever since I was a kid because art is in many things that we see, cartoons, movies, music, so many things. So I was just like, yeah, let me go for the common thing. So yeah, I started taking art lessons to 2005. And I think the first drawing that we were actually told to do was, I think should be well, it's not technically a pen. I think I drew a pen, but people were just told to draw things that they were interested in, like your favorite thing, or rather the thing that you see that's close to you. So the funny thing is, I think I drew the pen with a ruler, and some of my classmates were actually laughing at me, like, how would you draw a, a pen with a ruler? Like, I had no clue what I was doing, but at the same time, I was actually focused, like the perspective, the proportions. I was focused on producing those things the way I was seeing that pen. I just didn't realize that I wasn't supposed to do it with a ruler, but so I had to rub it off and then redraw, and I was actually able to finish it off before the teacher actually came back. Because if I had not finished it off, I was actually going to get into trouble. So I finished it off, and yeah, it was pretty cool. And then I think I got an assignment to, I think to like, she would actually, because yeah, she would actually teach you to create like a division where you form a ground and the wall, and then you place whatever object that you want to draw in front of you. So I think I drew a bottle of juice, and I created a fake floor and wall. And it actually came out pretty decent. Like I was actually getting into the zone. So I only spent a year at Phoenix College, and then I transferred again because of my grades. So after 2005, um, I don't think I got into drawing because the school that I went to had no practicals like that. So it just fizzled out, and the whole drawing thing um, went away. But I think during that period, shortly after Phoenix College, um, Tawanda Pirai, a really like my best friend, really good friend of mine. I've got two best friends actually, Paddington and Tawanda. Um, it was during his high school holidays when he actually came back home. He came to my house. And so Tawanda is a really good artist, illustrator. The guy can draw like crazy. You know, I think he started drawing ever since he was a kid in grade school, primary school. Tawanda is really talented. And during his primary school days, he actually competed in some junior competition, and he was actually a runner up. I think he came out second or in third place, and he actually got a T-shirt for that. I think it was a T-shirt and a sketch pad. So that's how good he is. You know, Tawanda used to draw things like the Transformers. He would draw cars. Um, there was one drawing that stood out in particular, especially during our childhood. And that drawing actually haunted my childhood for a couple of years because this drawing was of a character called Dimitri. So the first time when I saw the drawing, I was just like, okay, this is cool. Like, this is really, really interesting. So I was actually asking Tawanda, like, yo, who's this? Then he was just like, Dimitri. And then I was like, okay, okay. So I kept silent because I thought he was gonna explain who Dimitri was. But he just said the name and left things like that. So I was just like, all right, cool. Maybe I will figure it out. A couple of weeks, no, I had no idea. So when I got to his place again, I saw the drawing on his bed. And then I was just like, bro, who's this? And then he was just like, it's Dimitri. I was like, he's still not explaining. And then I was just like, okay, maybe he's gonna surprise me with something. But no, months passed actually. So with Tawanda, the way we grew up, it's either I would hang out at his house or he would hang out at my house. So it was just, one of those things would just interchange. And so the time I was at his house again, I saw the drawing again. And then I was just like, yo, who's this? Because I tried to take advantage of the fact that I had asked about Dimitri a couple of months back and that maybe he would forget. So I was just like, bro, who's this? And it was just like, it's Dimitri. And I was like, bro, who the hell is Dimitri? And he was just like, apparently that guy. So I was just like, man, for months, for weeks, I've been asking, but I've not been getting any answer. So I guess it's best I stop asking about Dimitri and just move on with my life. And so I did, but still, I spent years asking myself who Dimitri was. So when we were older, I actually asked him, like, bro, do you still remember this drawing with Dimitri? And then he was just like, oh yeah, it was my favorite drawing. Apparently, he misplaced the drawing. I'm sure if he still had the drawing to this day, I would have bought it. Because I mean, yeah, Dimitri made my made my mind go crazy. So I actually asked him, like, okay, now we are older men, or we are older men. So maybe you can actually have a full explanation of who Dimitri was. So I was just like, yo, please tell me something. Who was Dimitri? And then he was just like, oh, Dimitri was the main character from the movie Minority Report. So I was just like, so why were you not able to explain to me who Dimitri was when we were kids? I always asked you about Dimitri. I then got to a point where I started calling him by that name, Dimitri, because I mean, he's the only guy that's suited for that name. So, anyways, back to the whole drawing thing. Shortly after 2005, when Tawanda was back for his school holidays from high school, we got to a point where we were just like, okay, I think today let's do something different. Because during the holidays, we would obsess over video games, particularly PlayStation 2. The days I used to have a PlayStation 2. So we would always obsess, we would always spend the whole day playing, the video game. And so we were just like, okay, let's do something different. Then Tawanda was just like, well, okay, cool. So he just pulled out a couple of papers and then he just started drawing. So it came naturally to him because it was something that he had actually been doing for a couple of years. So I was just like, all right, I also want to draw. Like I want to learn how to draw. Can you teach me? I I kind of felt like Kurt Sloan, Jean-Claude Van Damme, in Kickboxer.
Teach me.
So I was just like, yeah, can you teach me how to draw? Then he was just like, all right, cool, grab a paper, grab a pencil, and then I'll show you how it's done. So I'm really grateful for that moment with Tawanda because he gave me the basics that I actually needed. He taught me things like working with perspectives, 1 point perspective, 2 point perspectives, 3 point perspectives, even like how to draw buildings, how to draw roads and everything. He actually taught me that. Then he was just like, okay, cool. Is there anything in particular that you want to draw? Then I was just like, well, I want to draw a person. Then he was just like, okay, who do you want to draw? So at that time, I was a huge Johnny Depp fan. I was a fan because of movies like Finding Neverland and, you know, even the Pirates of the Caribbean, and even thinking back to 21 Jump Street. So I was just like, yeah, I really love Johnny Depp. Then he was just like, all right, cool. So he even gave me the basics of how to draw like a person. So I was following along the things that he was doing, like he was drawing his own thing, and then I was busy working on Johnny Depp. So I think it took me like 2, 3 days to draw Johnny Depp and actually get it done. So it was actually a portrait, like a headshot, and right up to the shoulder levels. And it came out really, really well. Like I was really impressed by it. So to show how much I loved the drawing, I never put it in a file or anywhere people wouldn't see it. I would always leave it like in my room. I would always leave it at a place where people could actually get into the room and immediately see the drawing. Like even my mom, this other day in the morning, she actually got into my room. She saw the drawing, she picked it up and she looked at it, and then she looked at me and she was like, were you the one who drew this? Then I was just like, yeah. Then she was like, wow, this is beautiful. Great job. And I actually took it as a confidence boost. Cause I mean, I wasn't the most academically successful student. So having someone compliment that type of work, practical work, for me, it was a confidence booster. It was an actual compliment. So I was just like, thank you, mom. I really do appreciate that. So I think shortly after that, a couple of weeks later, I went to his house and I just wanted to draw again. So I just wanted to like carry over the wave of successfully drawing Johnny Depp. So I asked for a paper and a pencil. And so there was a magazine that was close by. So I opened the magazine just to see if there was anything that I could draw. And I came across a page that had Tom Welling's picture. Tom Welling was the guy from the hit show Smallville back in those days, Superman at that time. So I was just like, yeah, I would love to draw Tom Welling. So I actually tried to draw Tom Welling, but unfortunately, Tom Welling wasn't coming out. You know, I don't know. I think I I wasn't patient enough when it came to that because I mean I took 2 to 3 days to get Johnny Depp done. Now I want to get Tom Welling done in a space of hours, a few hours actually. So I ended up Tom Welling, instead of him, Tom Welling was like the handsome, the charming guy, the charming Superman guy that ladies would always crush for. Tom Welling, because of the way I drew him, went from Tom Welling to Tom Swelling because I mean, the guy looked sick, not sick in a good way, no, sick in a very bad way. It looked like his face was swollen, man. Like he was Tom Swelling for sure. And I got pissed off really, really bad because I couldn't produce Tom Welling the way I thought I had produced Johnny Depp. Tom Welling got from Tom Welling to Tom Swelling, and Tom Swelling got me to become Tom Swearing because I was swearing like crazy because I was pissed off. I was disappointed at myself. Tawanda was just sitting, minding his own business at that time. He didn't even say anything. He just left things like that because I'm sure if he wanted to intervene, I would probably punch him in the face or on the throat or something. So I just, I think I just threw away the papers, because that's how pissed off I was. And I was just like, you know what? I'm never going to draw again. Because if I had drawn Johnny Depp so successfully, why can't I draw Tom Welling successfully? The reason being, I lacked patience. So I was just like, I'm never going to draw again. So I think I spent years, so many years, without drawing anything because I was just like, I couldn't produce this guy. So that means I suck. I can't do it. I'm not a good artist. So I'm never going to do it again. So I think years later, the thought of drawing would always linger in my mind. It was always lingering in my mind. Like, I got to do something about this. But I was still, it was just thinking like, man, I don't know, Yeah, I want to draw, but I don't know where to start. So I think at that time also, that's when I had actually got into the graphic designing thing. So I was more focused on that. But then every single time I would look for like inspiration when it came to designing, you would also come across people sketching, like preparing, if it's a logo or if it's a flyer, you'd see people sketching their ideas out. And then I was just like, wow. So I guess if you need to be successful when it comes to this whole designing thing, you got to be able to draw. I think, in my opinion, I was just like, well, I'm sure you have to be able to draw. So it kept on bugging me. It kept on bugging me. So sometimes I would do sketches, but particularly for a logo. These were just rough sketches. I remember this one time we were actually laughing at those sketches with my good friend called Walter Fereza, because he was just like, bro, do you sketch? And then I was just like, nah, it's not, no, not legitimately. So he looked at the sketches, then he was just like, yeah, that's about it. That's about it. So I was just like, nah, I don't think I'm good at it. But it was just something that I kept on feeling like, um, I need to do something about it. So I started looking up some tutorials on drawing, and I think I remember trying to draw SpongeBob. It was pretty decent, it was pretty decent. But then I was just like, I'm following along. I don't even think that I'm really, really good enough at this. So at that time, I had already met Paddington when I was drawing SpongeBob, because he was in varsity doing multimedia, but he was doing this whole, I think it was doing a course that had a lot to do with drawing. And Paddington is a really, really good illustrator himself, too. Like, he's a good artist. I remember in high school, 2009, he he once drew Eustace from the Courage and Cowardly Dog show on the chalkboard with a chalk. And then I was just like, yo, this dude is a killer. This is amazing. And looking at that, instead of being inspired, I actually felt I actually felt embarrassed with myself. Like, man, look at what someone is doing. Can you do it? Nope. So I was just like, yep, I don't think I can draw. If he can draw on the chalkboard, then you're nothing. But comparisons, these things are stupid. So, anyways, we would always have these conversations about drawing with Paddington. He'd always show me the things that he would draw. So I think, in a way, I wasn't really mature enough to understand between being inspired and being uninspired from seeing someone else's work. So I was just like, what do I really do with this? So, I think I a few years passed, and I think this was 2017 when I got diagnosed with the high blood pressure. And at that time, like, I really got into a deep, deep state of depression. Like, I was just like, man, this is terrible. What am I going to do with my life? You're only seeing death, you're not seeing anything else. So I was just like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I started thinking, like, okay, for me to not feel depressed, I need some therapy. But what kind of therapy can really get my mind off this whole high blood pressure thing? So that's when I thought about trying to draw again. So I actually made it a point, like, I want to spend days, maybe an hour each day, just trying to see if I can draw something. So I think I started with just perspective lines, the things that I learned from Tawanda. So I drew those, and then I think I drew was it a small bottle of Vaseline, just using those perspective ideas. And from that, I drew, I think, a car pretty much in outline. It wasn't uh, a fully drawn car, but the car actually looked like a shoe. It was squashed. It was just an awkward drawing. So what I used to do, I would draw, and I would actually feel a little bit better from doing that. So I would send those drawings to Paddington, like, yo, look at these things. What do you think? Paddington would actually enjoy. He would actually rejoice, like, oh, this is actually good. If you keep on doing that, you actually get better at drawing. But I didn't really believe in that. I didn't really believe in the process. I don't think I was patient enough again at that time. I was just like, yeah, you know, whatever. He's saying all of these things because he's already a good sketch artist himself. So, yeah, whatever. He can say what he wants. So, I did that. And I think after I started feeling better, when the depression started going away, um, I unfortunately stopped drawing again. And, I think it was just a thing where patience still came into play. Like I wasn't patient enough with myself. So I was just like, yeah, whatever. Let me just focus on some other things. So, yeah, um, years passed. And then Paddington actually introduced me to a guy called Kesh Art, who was actually teaching the whole drawing thing. So Kesh Art had actually had a free course on the internet. So I was just like, okay, um, I will look at this thing and see how this thing goes. So I looked at his content and I actually thought it was quite inspiring. So I was just like, all right, let me have a look at Cash Art and see how best I can learn. Because Paddington had actually told me that he teaches you like the step by step way for you to actually get into drawing. So I was just like, all right, cool. Let me see. So when I reviewed the course, when I played the course, I think sometimes you actually don't understand how things are supposed to go. Like I keep on talking about the process and patience. You know, I think I played like 2, 3 episodes in a row. It's like you want to get everything known and done all at the same time. Because, I mean, the first episode, he simply tells you to just work on just drawing basic shapes like lines, just to make sure your hand gets used to the movement, you know? But I was just like, nah, I just can't focus on that. I want to get to the actual thing where he actually starts to draw. So you want to skip the basics and you just want to get to the final product. And, you know, every time you want to rush, you get to miss the important detail. So I watched 3, 4 episodes, but then I couldn't make sense of all of those episodes just for me to get started. Like it was very overwhelming for me. And by virtue of that, I just couldn't start. I couldn't practice. So I was just like, nah, this, I don't think this is for me. Drawing is for me. And I think I actually got to a point where I was just like, you know what? I'm never going to draw. Because with the way we work with Paddington, it's like I'm more of the designer, the one who's more obsessed with layouts, the one who's more obsessed with, you know, typography and everything. So I was just like, okay, let me leave Paddington to the drawing, the art, and then I just focus on the design. But then every single time, each day I lived, as each day passed, it kept on knocking in my mind like, yo, drawing is your thing, but you just need to practice as much as you can. I'm being annoyed by these cats making mutating sounds, man. Shut up. I'm sorry. But anyways, I can't focus. I can't focus. All right. Man, where was I? Jesus, cats. Okay. So the whole process, it's like I just wasn't able to be patient. I hope you can hear these because maybe you're just like, oh, this guy is getting stuck on his script. No, it's the cats outside. The cats outside. Anyways, let me get this thing done. So yeah, the whole process, man, I got distracted by cats and I forgot what I was actually saying. And on top of that, my battery died again. So yeah, it's just one hectic thing. But you know, we move. So, anyways, I was talking about the working relationship with Paddington. It's like I had decided that Paddington can do the drawings, the illustrations, and then I just do the designing. But I would always hear the voice, knocking my head, like, you just have to do drawing, you just have to do drawing. And even Paddington himself would always be telling me, like, when we start, like, doing our own thing, we have to draw together. Because when it comes to advertising, when it comes to things like motion design, there's things like storyboards, character development, all of those things. There's a lot of drawing involved. Even the animations, there's a lot of drawing involved. So it's like a couple of projects that we've done. It's always been Paddington doing the drawings and everything. And I'd just sit back, maybe just do the maybe posters or covers just to market the project. So I could always feel the guilt, like I just have to do something when it comes to my drawing. But the unfortunate part was I just didn't know how to start, like where to really start. Like I really wanted to start with the basics, but then I couldn't really come across the basics that could really get me moving. So I would always think about it, but then I just didn't know how to do it. And there was a lot of fear playing a part as well. Like, am I going to be able to do it? Like, what if I start just by messing it up? Like a lot of the times we fear messing things up, but then that is how we learn. So years later, this year actually, before that, Paddington had actually given me his old drawing tablet, the one that he used on his laptop when it came to digital drawings. So he gave it to me, but then I had no idea how to use it. Like in my mind, I wanted to like draw digitally, but then I just didn't know where to start, like I was previously saying. So he just gave it to me and I just kept it at home until it accumulated dust. It was sort of like an ornament, So this year, just a few months ago, Paddington was working on a certain project, particularly a storyboard for one of the brands at Barker's Ogilvy. So when he first started, I was just looking at what he was doing, but I wasn't really paying much attention. Then I was just like, yeah, whatever, it's his thing, let him do it. Then the second day, I think second or third day, I actually looked at it like again, and then I was just like, what is this guy really doing? So when I looked at it, I paid attention, and then I noticed like, okay, he was like, he's a good artist, don't get me wrong, but he was tracing over images that he had generated using AI. So it was a thing where he thinks of a shot and he creates a prompt and creates an image from that prompt and then sketches over those images. So I looked at it and it was just like, so bro, um, fill me in on this. How are you working on this thing? Like I'm actually seeing that you're tracing, right? Fill me in. And he actually told me like, no, yeah, I'm just tracing, I'm just generating images, blah, blah, blah. It was like a very simple process. And he was using um, his current Wacom or Wacom, whatever, Wacom tablet. So I was just like, okay, so it's pretty much tracing over that using Photoshop, creating new layers and then just drawing over. Then he was just like, yeah. And then he explained it further. And I quickly understood, like, man, this is really, really simple. You know what? When I get home, I'm going to start doing this. And I did. So I was just like, man, do you still remember the old drawing tablet that you gave me? Then he was just like, yeah. I was like, it's at home. It's accumulating dust. I have to go look for it. So when I got home, I looked for the tablet and luckily I got it. Yes, it was dusty. So I had to clean it up. And I had actually looked for an image, right, that I wanted to start off with. Prior to that, we had a couple of projects that we wanted to do, like personal projects, right? Because as football fans, we wanted to do fan art for many different players, that we like based on puns that we can come up with. We can literally play with the football player's name and we can then create a pun from that. I can't give away anything now, but you'll get to see the stuff as we start to share it on social media. So in my mind, I was just like, okay, I can't let Paddington handle all of that work, especially with him being a father now. Um, he has more responsibilities. So I actually have to be able to help balance when it comes to these things. So these were some of the things that actually prompted me to like start focusing on, getting back to drawing. So when I got home, I got the tablet and using the image I had generated using AI, I actually started sketching over that image. It wasn't perfect, but I was actually pleased with how the image came out. Because initially I had the idea of drawing the Arsenal coach Mikel Arteta based on a pun that we had actually come up with. So I was just like, all right, I might as well start with that and see how it comes out. So I started with the first image that I came up with, and yeah, it actually came out pretty decent. And then I was just like, all right, I'm gonna look for another image and try tracing over it again. Because Paddington actually said that tracing was actually the thing that made him a better artist. So if you actually go that route, you can actually get better too. So I really resonated with his process, the process that made him good. So I was just like, okay, I'm not him, right? I won't be as good as him, but I'll be the best version of myself using the same process that made him good. So I was just like, all right, let me continue working on this thing. So I looked for another image on the internet and I started sketching over it again, and it actually came out better than the first one. So I actually spoke to Tawanda about the whole process. Then he was just like, all right, cool. And he started even giving me his own helpful suggestions too. So when he came to my house uh, later, I actually showed him the drawing. Then he was just like, oh, wow, this is like really good. I know it's tracing, but it's really, really good. I have nothing to worry about you. Like, as a mentor, if you hear your mentor telling you things like that, man, it makes you feel really, really good. So I think after that, I had to look for, I think, an actual image of Mikel Arteta, because now I was just like, okay, I want to get this project done and out of the way. So I have to get serious with it, even if it doesn't come out perfectly, right? That's me. I can actually look back at it and just say, yeah, at least I did it my way. So I looked for his image, I traced it over, I worked on it. I think I spent like almost a week working on his image, and it came out pretty decent. I was really happy with it. And then, excuse me, I also started working on Carlo Ancelotti, the Real Madrid coach, also based on a pun that we also came up with. And I'm still in the process of working on that. I have a couple of projects that I want to do, drawing projects. So, you know, in a nutshell, that's how I started drawing again. It was a painful process with a lot of stumbles, start and stops, but you know, I'm happy that I chose to listen to the voice that kept on knocking on my head like, yo, you gotta get to it. So yeah, I'm not yet a pro. I'm still a beginner, close to intermediate, but I'm really, really happy with my progress. I might as well draw a portrait of myself, maybe my parents. You know, I don't want to rush things, just taking things bit by bit. So I'm really happy with that. And yeah, that's the story of how I started drawing again. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. So, the moral of the story is this: we have different gifts that were bestowed upon us. And always listen to that voice that tells you to follow your passion. I know starting is scary, but then fear is normal. And the only way to conquer fear is by taking the first step. It's like every step, even the messy one, is still a step forward. You know, um, it's like when you start, be patient with yourself. I think that's the most crucial thing to do. Be very patient with yourself and trust the process, and don't be afraid to challenge yourself. Try and learn as many things about yourself and your passion as you can. Try figuring out things as you are in the process. Like, I think that thing where you want to figure out things, that thing where you want to understand things, is such a great quality. Because it's like with me, whenever I do things, I want to make sure I do things really, really good. So I'm always going back and forth, you know? So at least that's how you can challenge yourself when it comes to working through your passions. And don't be afraid to suck. Don't be afraid to be bad at certain things that you want to do, especially when you are starting. All of these all-time greats, the ones that are in the Hall of Fames, all of these successful people that we hear about today, they didn't just start by being good, They started off by being just mediocre. But then that's what helped them get to the next stage. So don't ever fear starting, you know, in a in a bad way, actually. Because for me, that's been a constant fear. Like I just didn't want to um start by sucking, by creating like my first project and having a bad one. But when I look at some of the things that I've done, particularly when it comes to graphic designing, I look at the work that I started doing and the work that I'm doing now. It's completely different. I'm just like, man, this is trash. But that's how I actually started. So don't ever fear being bad when you start, you know? And don't ever let certain things define where you want to be. For example, when it comes to me, when I look at my handwriting, I always think that it's not good enough to make me a good illustrator, you know? But when I think of Tawanda, my really good friend, I mean, Tawanda has like the worst handwriting I've ever seen in my entire life. But just imagine how good he is when it comes to drawing. So don't let certain things define who you want to be. So we have come to the end of the episode, and I hope you guys learned something really, really valuable from my story. Now, if you've been getting value from my content, please leave your thoughts in the comments section. I'd love to know what you guys think. Leave a like. And if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe to my channel and let's grow together. But if you have subscribed, please share the link to anyone you might think of and let the family grow. So I'm happy to have done this video, happy to be feeling better. And yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.